So, all right, before we can test this with the 50 millimeter 1.8 Ali tuning spring here that Barry sent me to test. Okay, so this is the one he sent me here. See, I can easily, I wouldn't say easily, I gotta put some stress into it, but this is not even my dominant hand. So that, now this is my dominant hand. This is my 50 millimeter from AliExpress. You can see the coils spaced differently. Both 1.8 wire, 22 OD, 50 millimeter long. But this one here, with my dominant hand, I'm struggling and I can't even, I can't even compress that. So this is what I had been running. Now, I don't know if it was working that great, but it didn't cause any farting or auto fire or popping or any loss of power or anything. I can't tell you if I gained much using it, but I had been running this in my Pistelle X-68 for months. I was running it even on HPA. I mean, it didn't really matter. I was running this all the time because I had a weak factory spring, so I swapped it out for this. Now, this one here that I just got, again, from one of my friends of the channel, wanted me to test it out and see what I thought. It's softer, so maybe, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to find out, right? So we're going to take the 60 millimeter factory 1.6 wire size spring out of this X68. This is the one you just saw me shooting in the other video because I wanted to do a video and shoot 6 shots on a strong 1100 psi, just to give a baseline on what the factory would do. And again, I know these tests is on HPA and I should be doing them on CO2 because naturally one of the benefits of the tuning spring is supposed to be greater consistency across a spread of 6 shots, right? 6, 7 shots. I will do a CO2 test as well. Not with this one. Sorry, that's my spring. With this one here that I got from AliExpress. It's a softer 50 millimeter. I will do a test on CO2 as well, but I'm going to do repeat the same 1100 psi test. And again, that was my strong, what I call my strong 1100 is probably more like 1125. Okay. Anyways, long story short, let's not make this video too long, Alan. Okay. All right. Let's take the HD24 short tuning ASA and the Ali expansion chain mod on here. We'll take that off, inspect that. That looks good. Nothing looks abnormal. Always a good idea to make sure the pin ain't loose. Since I Loctited that thing, I haven't had a lick of more problems with it, so that's good. Put that aside. I left my pick downstairs, didn't I? My sturdier pick that I like to use to get this out of here. I think I did. All right, that's fine. That's fine. It's coming out fine with this little thinner one. All right. Probably have some light on. Why didn't you guys tell me that it's awfully dark over here? Woo, that's better. There we go. All right. And again, that last video, guys, like I had mentioned, that was with my spacer, what I call birdcage. A lot of us call it that. Air plenum, if you want to get technical, maybe. Cage. All right, those numbers in that video are with the modified birdcage. Okay. Now, kind of got this idea. I'd been actually thinking about it for a while on what we could do to this, and but I really kind of got this idea from HD24 because they actually sell a modified spacer, already oblonged, beefed up over here. Now, I didn't go hog wild, okay? One, you got to be careful you don't get too close to the O-ring channel, okay? All right, so you go nice and easy with that. And I left a lot of thickness, a lot of meat right here, okay? On the one the HD24 sells, it's actually, those oblonged holes are actually a little bit bigger, but I noticed they beef up the material over here. It's like thicker. So I didn't do that naturally because all I did was modify one of these that I already had, an extra. Okay. And I'm going to tell you real quick on how I did this. And I'm not suggesting that you need to do it or you should do it. But I like to explain my thought process and the process I used. Okay. I took one of these Harbor Freight round files. That's what I call it. I don't know if it's got another name, but see how it's round, right? And I basically went in, okay, all the way through, and I was able to slowly file down 2 holes at a time. And I just kept checking to make sure I didn't go too far, right? I'm gonna stay away from the O-ring. And I did that nice and easy, carefully. I did not go in the opposite direction. I chose to, I could have went a little bit and opened it a little bit, but I wanted to leave this nice and beefy over here, okay? I didn't want to lose the strength right there. So I opened it up. I approximate that this thing probably flows air twice as good as it did before, right? Because before it only had a little hole in there, right? All right. So that's all I did. Again, I am not telling you guys go out and do this to your markers, to your spacers, or go spend $100 on another spare bolt and valve assembly so you can do this. However, some of us do have spare pots laying around. Maybe you did maybe you already swapped out to the Gen 2 Pistelle X-68 bolt and valve assembly, and maybe you never threw away the old one, you just kept it for spare pots, and maybe you want to try something like this. I did see some gains, guys, on CO2 especially. I did see some gains with this, and it cost me $0 to do it, okay? But I did see probably, I mean, not massive gains, but heck, I mean, you add 7-inch barrel extension on and you only get like maybe 6 to 10 joules. I got like anywhere between 4 and 6 joules. And it did seem to move that hot shot down a little bit and spread the love across all 6-7 shots. It did help with consistency, which is really what this mod was supposed to be about, I believe. So I'm running it, okay? You saw me yesterday on the other video I did on the O-rings. I had changed out that automotive air conditioning O-ring that wasn't lasting for me with these new polyurethane O-rings that I got from a vendor, a store on AliExpress. So I ran that for the first time, 1100 psi, 1125 through it. It held, so it held up good. So, all right, and then this, you take the bolt out, okay, and then I'm running this nylon. It's a 1 millimeter. I got this on Amazon. It's super cheap. I don't know. I probably paid like $9, $10 and got like 25 of these things. Okay, because I couldn't find anybody selling a quote-unquote bolt bumper for the X68. So I was like, you know what? I'll just use that. It's got to be better than the rubber that came with it, and the rubber was all deteriorating. So I've been running this now for a good long time, but I got a bunch of them. It's holding up good. So it's just a nylon washer, nylon flat washer, 1 millimeter thick. Got a package at Amazon. Okay, that's it. Bolt O-rings holding up good, looks fine. It's always good to check that out. Just looked at it the other day though. All right, so here's the factory spring. Okay, this was actually the one I can't remember if this was from my Intrabuster or if it was original, but one of them I had stretched out a little bit. I think this was the Intrabuster factory spring that I stuck in here. But anyways, this is 60 millimeters long, okay? You can see these are tighter coils. All right. On my 50 millimeter tuning spring, 1.8 millimeter wire thickness, the coil spacing's about the same as the factory. Coil spacing on this one's a little tighter. Probably the reason why it's softer, right? Even though it's the same thickness spring as this one, 1.8. This factory's thinner, the spring, though. So it's got a bigger coils, but it's got the thinner wire. Okay. So to me, it feels, again, this is my dominant hand, my right hand. To me, this factory 60 millimeter takes me, I mean, it feels like about the same tension, essentially. This still feels like it's more tension, but it's got wider spaced coils and it's longer, so maybe that makes sense. I don't know. I'm not a spring engineer, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so maybe I am qualified. All right, so we're going to swap this factory out. I know, Barry, I know you sent me. If you're out there, Barry, if you're out there, he's always out there, right? Barry, I think you're my #1 fan, brother. Anyways, you're a good friend. Yeah, so we're going to try this one out in the next video. So I'm putting it in now, okay? No problem. The inside diameter is just, I had already measured this and compared it anyways. It's every other measurement's fine other than it's 10 millimeters shorter and it's a little thicker wire gauge. Okay, so we're going to put this puppy back in there so she'll be ready to go when I go run another test later. Okay, again, we're going to continue to run this modified air plenum birdcage spacer. Okay, we're going to continue to run that puppy. Yes, we are. I don't feel like there's any risk anything's going to bend. I mean, I just ran this thing at the highest pressure I have, 1125 psi, and the spacer looks good. Now, with the short 50 millimeter spring, oh yeah, you don't have to pull the trigger at all. I mean, I did anyways out of force of habit, but there was absolutely no reason to, no need to. That thing's screwed in nice, just fine. I think on the shorter tuning springs, the 50 millimeter, basically you don't have that issue. At least that's what I've always noticed when I was running my 50 millimeter springs in this, that you don't have to pull the trigger on these. The 60 you do and don't, right? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And I think it depends on where that bolt is. You know, obviously if it's hanging up on the sear, then that's when you gotta pull the trigger to finish tighten this up. But it's always good to go easy. You don't want to force things. Forcing things gets expensive when you break stuff. Okay? And yeah, so far those new detents that I ordered are working out good. These little nylon plastic ones, I'll show you how much wear I had on these things. And it's the second set. You guys may remember a couple months ago, I had a video where I thought that's why the balls were rolling out of my gun. Of course, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Hopefully you can. But it's way worn flat there. You know, this is some kind of plastic nylon. So anyways, I replaced those with, they're 5 millimeter. So I replaced those with these things I got on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the video. So I can't remember the life of me. They got a weird name. They're like some kind of ceramic, precision ceramic ball bearing. So they're available in all different kinds of sizes. They kind of look like a pearl, but they're supposed to be a lot harder than nylon and hold up better, but yet they're non-metallic. Okay. I'll leave a name and a link to these in case anybody's looking for them. Make it easy for you. Again, they were on Amazon. They're supposed to be really hard, high precision, 5 millimeter, and that's what I'm using for detents now. Super easy to change these guys too. Super easy. But I'm using these, and next time I pull apart my intrabuster, I'll swap. You know, that one's a little bit more work. You got to open up the clamshell to get to your detents on the intrabuster Gen 2. Same thing with the BP50. But once I have a reason to open them up, I'll proactively change them out for these. These have been holding up pretty good, and I think they're definitely going to wear a lot slower, or they may not wear at all. I don't know. So I gotta hunt down a source for the spring too, for the detent springs, because I'm sure those lose their tension after a while, and that could be most of my problem, is the spring tension. So, but these are worn. These are definitely worn, the nylon ones. So anyways, long story short, that's what I'm doing with that as well, guys. I'm doing some different stuff, you know. Not saying it's for you to do. Of course, if you want to do something that you see here, that's entirely up to you. I mean, I ain't gonna be offended if you do. I'm not gonna be offended if you don't. Okay, these are modifications that I decided to try I like to experiment with stuff. And I wanted to see if I could improve, you know, on the, get a better material for the detents. I could have just got steel, you know, 5mm steel balls, and that would have been an improvement as well. I know a lot of guys do that. I think Sean did that. I think he's on one of his guns anyways, one of his markers. But I figured, hey, let's do something different, you know? Try a different material. So yeah, so she's ready to go. Next video, or I'll probably just incorporate this into the test video. We'll fire this thing up again on an 1125 psi, fresh bottle, fresh pump, and we'll see if Barry's tuning spring from AliExpress. We'll see if we how that thing runs. If it runs good, we'll compare it and see if we got any gains at all. Again, if we're gonna have gains, it's probably gonna be more noticeable in CO2. So I'll do an HPA test, and then right after I'm done with that test, I'll probably immediately cap this off. And I know I have a video already with the factory spring, same ammo, same configuration on CO2 in the handle. So I'll just, instead of wasting 2 CO2 cartridges, I'll just do a CO2 test as well. I'll plug it, do a CO2 test, because I know I've fired the marker on CO2 before like this. Matter of fact, I think I fired it plugged with the expansion too. But if not, I'll just do it without the expansion and try it. But we'll see how that spring performs in any case. All right, thank you guys. Looking forward to the test video coming up shortly. Peace out. All right, welcome back to Less Lethal Contingencies. Alan here. So today, this is part 2, right? We had that part 1 episode yesterday where I was shooting my Pistelle X-68 with the 7-inch barrel, 685 honed out barrel, finishing it off with the 6-inch MCS Reaper suppressor. Does not suppress noise. However, it does give us a nice bump in feet per second, usually between 8 and 12 joules worth the bump is typically what I'm seeing. Depends on the pressures I'm running and the barrel length. Yeah, so we're gonna do part 2 here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna test it out with the 50mm 1.8mm tuning spring, okay, or AliExpress spring that my buddy here, that Barry sent to me to test. Okay, it's a softer spring. It's a little softer. I think I was going over some of this in part 1 video, where I was attempting to give a baseline with the factory spring, which is 60mm by 1.6mm wire size. So that serves as the baseline, okay? So today what we're going to do is we're going to test the shorter spring, right? The thicker wire size spring. Again, it's a little softer than what I was using as a 50mm tuning spring. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see, you know, I mean, we'll gas it up. We'll see, and we'll air it up, and we'll see what we get out of it. So also I'm going to do a CO2 test as well and see what we get, because really that's typically where you see the benefits of the shorter spring, you know, sturdier or stiffer spring is under CO2 conditions. Usually it gives you a little more consistency. Instead of having a hot shot in the beginning, it kind of spreads the love a little bit more, you know, and makes it more consistent across a 6 or 7 round, you know, 6 or 7 shots. So at least in theory, that's what the point of running the tuning spring is not to see a big joule gain by any means. It's just to kind of make it more consistent when it's on CO2. So we'll be doing that here shortly. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing set up and ready to go. The last test, if I'm not mistaken, we were shooting it on 1100 on my 9CI tank. So we'll reproduce that first. If everything goes well with that and we don't get any auto fires, then we'll go ahead and we'll do a CO2 test after that as well. All right. Right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I knew I forgot something upstairs. Anyways. All right, so indeed, it was the 9CI tank that I was using yesterday, 1100. This was my strong 1100. First few shots, probably around 1125, I think it was. So we're going to reproduce that test, but this time with the 50 millimeter, 1.8 millimeter wire size spring that I got from a friend of the channel here to test with. So we're going to be testing that out and see how that goes. We'll use the same ammunition, of course. We'll be using the ADN drum mag, but we're just going to shoot off about 4 to 6 rounds just to give us something to compare to, provided it airs up with no problems. And then we'll see how that goes. If that goes smoothly and there's no auto fire or any funny business going on, then I may also do a quick CO2 test as well, or I may choose to do that as an additional video. We'll see. Depends on how long this one runs. So, all right, let me take my plug out in the back, this little homemade plug here. Let's take that out and we'll screw in the bottle and we'll air this beast up. Make sure we don't have any leaks or anything funny like that going on, and yeah, we'll see what we can do with this 50 millimeter spring. Now again, typically you don't run the 50 millimeter springs so much with the HPA. I have. I ran for months. I ran my 50 millimeter spring, CO2 and HPA with no problems. But I feel like once I was going back and looking at some of the data, I feel like running the 50 millimeter with high pressure air, I feel like I was leaving some Joules on the table, for lack of a better way to describe it, right? When you're leaving something on the table, okay? I feel like I could have probably put up better numbers with the 60 millimeter factory spring, or even a 60 millimeter 1.8 wire size spring, a slightly beefer spring. But we'll see what we get on this. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so she's unloaded. And I'm going to go ahead and air her up on 1100. And this tank is pumped pretty much to capacity. It's just a little under 3,000 capacity. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. And that is a leak this time. That is a leak. All right, well, it doesn't look like we're going to be doing this test. Now with a leak. I'm glad I started off with HPA first, because I would have just been wasting CO2. So let me try it one more time, but I don't think it's just going to fix itself here. And then it does. All right, so that was a little weird. I aired it up, could hear a leak coming down the mag well. De-aired it, aired it up again, still had a leak, de-aired it, third time's a charm, I don't know. Pushed it back on and she's quiet now, but of course I lost quite a bit of capacity, so I'm just about at a little under 2,000 psi. So it's not going to be putting up some fantastic numbers for me, but it should be enough pressure to be able to shoot off 4 to 6 of these rounds and see if this spring will even work, and see what we get. So we should be all right with that. So let me go ahead and get my ears on and we'll fire off. I got the freestanding chrony set to feet per second. We'll shoot, like I said, we'll shoot off about 4 or 6, probably shoot 6 of these, I guess. We'll see what we get out of it. Hopefully it doesn't leak on me when I'm running CO2, because that would be a waste. All right. We have our ADM paintball drum, the X-68 drum mag, loaded with 10-gram Joules. These weigh in at 9.9 grams, and they're a 6.84. So they are a bore match for my barrel, which my barrel is a 6.86 that I honed out. So it's about it's a 6.85 that I honed out. So it's about a 6.86. Turn the laser on. Yeah, about 2,000 psi. All right, let's see how this spring works. 1100 psi, 10-gram ammo, 50 millimeter by 1.8 millimeter wire size bolt spring. Shot one. Okay. Well, folks, that is what we say in show business as a whole lot of fighting. All right. So, it doesn't like high pressure air. 1100 psi, it does not like. Okay, that again is what we call massive auto fire. Massive auto fire. All right. So that spring, I would say that spring is way too loose or too soft, which I kind of felt like it was probably going to be too soft, because if you remember in the previous video, I could easily compress that with it wasn't even my dominant hand, and I could easily press that. It was nowhere near stiff enough. So would it work on CO2? Maybe. Do I want to risk even wasting a 12-gram cartridge trying it? No. I know the 50 millimeter 1.8 spring that I have, which has wider coil spacing on it, larger coil spacing. I know that one works all day long. I used it for months in this very gun with no problems whatsoever. So Barry, I don't know if you got a chance to test it on any of your markers independently, or if you were just waiting on me to test it first to see what the outcome was. But I gotta say, the 50 millimeter spring 1.8 that you sent me, it's too soft. It's way too soft, especially for such a short spring. Now, maybe if it was the 60, and I know you did send me a 60 to test as well. You asked if I could test a few of these springs. I will test the 60 as well and see if I have the same outcome. But the 50, on high pressure air, it's no good. I don't think it's gonna probably be any good on CO2 either, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's the test. It's I wouldn't use that spring. So but we'll try. At some point I'll try that 60 millimeter long one you sent me as well. But if it ends up being really soft too, the coil spacing, I'm guessing it's not going to be, strong enough spring to do what it needs to do. That was a whole lot of auto fire, man. That was crazy. All right, but that was fun too, right? That was fun, man. So anyways, I don't know how your outcome was, if you even tested it or not, but let me know. Anyways, peace out. We'll see you the next time on the next test. Peace out. All right, I'm back after that craziness, right? Was that auto fire? That was, folks, that was an extreme case of auto fire. Thankfully, most of the time, you don't get auto fire like that. That reminds me of when I was testing some BP50 springs a few months ago, and I had a spring in there, and it did that. It was just like, it was just nuts. You would think it's shooting multiple rounds, but no, one round went out. Sometimes the second one might chase it just from all that air pressure. Incidentally, now that I think about it, I think that real soft 50 millimeter spring was probably some of the reason why I was hearing some of the air leaking too when I first aired it up twice, right? It took 3 shots and all of a sudden it was probably just right on the cusp of not being strong enough to even air the marker. So that's, at least that's my educated guess. All right, so I went upstairs to the office. I took it apart really quick, and I swapped out that 50, that real soft 50 millimeter spring. That ain't gonna work. I don't know, maybe it might work on CO2, but honestly, for me, I want a spring that's going to at least operate without auto fire, not only on CO2, but yes, also on HPA. Now, that spring being asked to do multiple things may not be the most efficient at CO2 or HPA, one or the other, but it shouldn't cause auto fire. So I think we're way too soft. I think the coil spacing was on that particular, even though it was a thicker wire, 1.8, I think the coil spacing played a lot into this. I mean, I could easily squeeze that down. Okay, now the 60mm spring that you sent me to test as well, to be a potential factory replacement, I think it was. It is a little bit softer than the 60mm factory spring, okay? But I did put it in just now, a few minutes ago. We're gonna test it on high pressure air, same pressure, 1100. I pumped the bottle back up as well. So we're back up to 3,000 capacity on this 9CI tank, 1100, right? The real strong 1100 tank here. So we're gonna test that really quick and see if we get auto fire. If we don't get auto fire, wonderful. Maybe it's a viable replacement for the factory spring. And then at that point, I'll test it on CO2 as well if we don't get auto fire. But if it can't handle 1100 PSI, I know you're not gonna wanna use it anyways. At least I don't think you're going to, so, but I won't use it in that case. I want something that's gonna be able to, gonna be able to shoot CO2 and either air source. Again, maybe it would be more beneficial on CO2, the shorter spring, but it shouldn't cause auto fire on the other air source. At least not for my liking anyway. So, all right, so we're back. We got the 60mm, and I think you said this was the one that was the factory replacement, so it should be a 1.6. And I think I did confirm that with my measurements a few days ago when I was first looking at the springs. So we're gonna air it up and see if it's any better, okay? 1100 PSI, full capacity. Indeed, no ammo in the breech either. Let's see. All right, not a hefty leak, but I am, well, it went away again. All right, so, I don't know if that's the new O-ring that I'm breaking in, although I didn't have any problems with the O-ring yesterday, that new inner Birdcage O-ring, that new urethane one. So I'm not assuming it's the O-ring. I'm thinking it's the softness of these springs. But we'll see if it shoots this time. Like we did last time, we'll see if it shoots. All right, so I had my ears on, my ear protection. I'm gonna put that on again as well because if it does auto fire, it's just a whole lot of loud noise. Got the chrony set to feet per second to capture anything. I wasn't able to capture anything last time. I mean, when that thing started auto firing, that kind of sets my nerves off a little bit. It gets me a little, my adrenaline flowing, and I just wanted to turn the tank off. So I don't remember what it was. When I play back the video, if I'm able to zoom in and capture the feet per second, then I'll pop it in the video during my editing process. But if you don't see it in there, it's probably because I wasn't able to capture it. But in any case, not good. So it wasn't a good outcome of that one. All right, so we're gonna use the same ammunition, the 10 gram Joules, the drum mag. We're aired up on 1100 PSI. This is, Barry, this is the spring you sent me, claiming that it was potential to be a factory replacement. So that to be a factory replacement, it would need to be a 60mm long, 22 millimeter OD, and 1.6mm wire size, okay? I believe that is exactly what you sent me. However, it feels a little softer, so I'm thinking it's not as stiff as the factory spring, so we'll see what it does. It's good chances are it could start auto firing. So we'll see. Let's see if we can get a round out of it without it auto firing. This time I'm gonna have my fingers on the slide check so I can turn it off quick enough, hopefully. All right, 60mm potential factory replacement spring, 1100 PSI, 10 gram ammo, shot one. Yeah, yep, 518.8 feet per second. Whew, that was fast. I did see that one. I'm glad I had my fingers on it though. I turned it off right away. Yeah, that was, again, massive auto fire, okay? My recommendation, Barry, is I wouldn't use either one of those springs unless you have totally different luck than I have on CO2. But like I said, if it won't shoot on high pressure air, I'm not going to test it on CO2. So I'll let you have the honors of testing it on CO2 if you care to, because I know you probably have a couple other ones. I don't believe those were the only ones, the ones you sent me. So, but yeah, that's whew. We used almost 1,000 psi in one shot. So, and that's what auto fire will do for you. That's what it'll do for you. Big old nothing. Yeah. So that 60 millimeter spring, I wouldn't use it as a replacement. The coil spacing, it's too soft. It's too soft. I don't have anything to measure that, so I don't know how you would go about measuring it. Maybe I just got lucky when I ordered my 50 millimeter tuning spring, because it worked fantastic, CO2 and HPA. Like I said, I feel like I left something on the table in ways of power when I used it with HPA. But for CO2, thing worked fantastic, the one that I got. But it was one thing I noticed right out of the gate, it was a much stiffer spring. The material could be different too. You know, I'm not a spring engineer, so I couldn't really tell you one way or another, but I would say that, yeah, these two springs that you sent me for the X-68, yeah, they're not going to work out. So, but I know you sent me some BP50 springs. I'll definitely get around to testing those as well, and we'll see what luck I have with those. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been entertaining. If nothing else, it does explain what auto fire, well, it shows you how bad auto fire can be if, you know, you get the wrong spring in there, spring rate, tension, all that sort of stuff. So hopefully it's of some value to somebody out there. And if not, I'm sure it's got some comedic value for sure. Anyways, I hope you're having a great weekend. And yeah, stay tuned for more craziness over here. All right. Appreciate you. Peace out. All right, so we're back up in the office here. I just got done shooting the testing that potential for a factory replacement spring for the X-68 that you sent me here, and just going to take it out and reinstall the factory spring that came with the gun, and I'll show you the difference as far as the tension on the spring itself. But this one indeed caused auto fire as well, as you can see on the video earlier. So the 60 millimeter potential factory replacement, it's too soft, way too soft. So we're going to replace this. I'm putting my original 60 millimeter factory back in. That's what I'm going to do for now, since I'm shooting primarily high pressure air out of this for the most part. However, this one here is actually, see how stiff that is? Like, I cannot compress that completely without putting super strength into it. This is my 50 1.8 millimeter wire size. I've been running for months, okay? But recently I just started running the factory back in there again. Even the factory, I can compress it, but this one here, the one that you were hoping, Barry, that we were both hoping could have been a good candidate for a replacement, it's the same dimensions. Actually, I did find it to be a tad bit shorter. Let's measure that really quick, okay? I don't want to keep this video too long either for this test video, but let's just check it really quick. So this is the one you told me was factory, okay? Or you were hoping would be a factory replacement. So I just took it out of the gun, right? This is the one we just tested. Now, I don't know if it shrunk at all since then, but it's somewhere around 57 and a half. Let's call it 58 inches, okay? 58 inches, okay? The factory is 60, right? 60. maybe almost 61, okay? All right, so this one really wasn't a perfect match to be factory from the length either. Let's check the thickness of the wire size. All right, so the wire size is 1.6, okay? So that's good. That's what the factory wire size is, 1.6. All right, 1.6 on this one. This black colored one is my factory spring, okay? And of course, we know the 22 OD. My factory is essentially 21 and a half. They say it's a 22 OD spring. This one, I mean, you probably have a little bit of give and take on this, but 21 and a half. This one's definitely 22. Yeah, so 22, but that's fine. That little difference is not what concerns me. What I think the difference, the problem is the, you know, the wire diameter is the same. Pretty much the OD is pretty much, for the most part, the same. The issue here is that the spring's a little shorter, and even more than that, it's the spring rate. I mean, look at the coil spacing. You know, it is shorter and the coil spacing, but again, this is not my dominant hand. This is my left hand. This is my right hand when I'm a righty, okay? I can very easily, and I can't obviously explain that. You'd have to feel it yourself. You could try it yourself with your two springs. With ease, my less dominant hand, my non-dominant hand, I'm compressing that. This is my dominant hand. I got to put a lot more force in to get that compressed. Okay, so this spring is a little bit too short to be a factory replacement, and it's not quite stiff enough, even though it is the same wire size. So the coil spacing is, it's not way off, but you know, maybe most of it's the fact that it's shorter. You know, I don't know. Could be the material too. You know, it could be the material for sure. I mean, this almost looks like a stainless steel spring. I'm not sure what the factory one's made out of, but I can say this one here, that my tuning spring is definitely much stronger material. So anyways, we know both of these springs caused auto fire. At the end of the day, you can't have auto fire like that on any air source, whether it be CO2 is your air source or whether it be high pressure air. So at the end of the day, that's a no-go. We're going to reinstall the factory 60 millimeter. Like I said, I shoot mostly high pressure air most of the time. So right now, until I find a better spring, this is still my best, most reliable option. Okay. Put her back together. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy here. I might have to pull the trigger, we'll see. Nope. This time I don't have to pull the trigger. All right, she's back together with the factory spring, okay? So yeah, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but neither one of those springs you sent me is working out for me. So again, I don't know if you had the same outcome or if, you know, they worked okay for you. But anyways, that's all I got to say here. Peace out.